We actually did this very video over 2 years ago. I cannot believe it's been that long, and I love that thumbnail. I'm gonna try to pay homage to it somehow with this thumbnail. And I had a lot of you guys in the comments on that video back when it came out saying, Justin, you should totally do a part 2. And I was like, yeah, I probably will.
And I never did.
So we are here with a 2024 update to a video that many of you guys seem to have enjoyed. And if you weren't around 2 years ago, then welcome to the update. A few things to get out of the way. Number one, this video is not meant to pigeonhole or bottleneck anyone into thinking that they need to wear a certain type of fragrance exclusively based on how long they've been on earth. Ultimately, you should be wearing whatever makes you feel happy and confident, regardless of whether or not you get affirmation from anyone. This video is simply meant to provide some guideposts for guys who are genuinely looking for a starting place of fragrances or scent profiles to consider based on their age, because there is a little bit of something to it. I think we can all agree on that. But if this is not your pursuit, if you're not caring about being a certain age and wearing a fragrance appropriate for your age group, then you can take my suggestions simply as what I'd call vibe recommendations. Now, what does this mean? What I mean by this is that the way I see it, a fragrance is a personality in a bottle more than it is a demographic in a bottle. Much of the mainstream and mass market would have you believe otherwise, but again, that's the way I see it. So that said, you can simply choose the fragrances you wear based on the vibe that you want to supplement your own personality and share with the world. For example, if you're in your 20s and you know yourself to have more of a mature demeanor and you want people to take you more seriously with your scent, then maybe consider my recommendations for men 40s and up. Now, obviously, these vibes that I'm referring to are subjectively characterized and categorized by me and my own perception and experience. So they are absolutely not law. Now, each recommendation is intended to be a signature scent, basically a scent you can be known for if you're looking for that. So with all that out the way, let's dive right into it. Let's start with the teens. Now, first off, this fragrance should be inexpensive because I don't know many teenagers these days that are financially independent or working towards that. That'll come later. And in terms of the vibe I'm looking for this fragrance to convey, I want it to be easygoing. I want it to use typical masculine elements like a freshness, like spices and woods, so that it is accessible without question. And I'm only giving one recommendation for this category. I'll explain that in a bit, but this recommendation is from Burberry. It's Mr. Burberry Eau de Toilette. This is essentially a fresh blue fragrance, fresh, spicy, lots of cardamom in here, a little bit green smelling in a way, cooling, clean, but also not completely generic. It's not going to smell like your Versace Dylan Blue or your Dior Sauvage or Bleu de Chanel. It is kind of its own thing. All that being said, it is an easy wear. Again, anytime, anywhere, you can spray this on going to class, just hanging out at home, hanging out with friends, whatever it may be, this is gonna work. If you are a younger guy, this has that youthful vibe that you might be looking for, and it's extremely versatile. So that is Mr. Burberry Eau de Toilette. Okay, let's move to 20s, and I'm gonna include a designer and a niche pick for each category moving forward. I didn't do a niche pick for the teenagers because I think it's pretty obvious. Niche fragrances are not cheap. For my guys in their 20s, the criteria for the fragrance vibe is not too different from what we just talked about with the teens, except that price is no longer a limitation. It's expected that you'll start to have a little bit more of a dispensable income as you move into your 20s, but we're still prioritizing an accessible and clean, easygoing vibe. And my designer pick will be Dior Homme Sport 2021. I almost chose the regular Dior Homme 2020, which you guys know I love and recommend all the time, but I'm just changing it up. It's essentially a fresher version of Dior Homme 2020, and it seems to dry down in kind of a more richer way, so it almost makes it even better for the evenings than Dior Homme 2020, which is really strange for a sports scent. It is more aldehydic, which gives it more of a clean, open, fresh vibe, almost like clean laundry in a way, but it ultimately has a nice clean citrusy quality, some musk. It smells masculine, but it's, again, easygoing, and it's also very attractive. That makes for a very versatile fragrance you can wear anytime, anywhere. So guys in your 20s, consider Dior Homme Sport 2021. And for the niche pick, this is a fragrance you can still find under $100. If you guys are concerned about price and your budget, this should not break the bank at all. But I would definitely sample first if you can, just to make sure you love it. From Essential Parfum, we have Bois Imperial. This is a clean, fresh, woody fragrance. This does not smell generic. It it does not smell like a lot of other things out there. It is relatively simple, but as a result, in this case, it actually has a lot of specificity to it. You get a lot of basil in here, which is a fresh kind of spicy green herb. Just makes it fresh and approachable. Definitely some spices in here and definitely lots of musky woods. Not the most natural woods. I think it is using some synthetic aroma chemicals, but they're ones that give the scent a certain texture, this almost cottony, fresh, dry, woody texture that is musky, and it leaves a nice lingering trail and makes it maybe hang around a little bit longer than it otherwise would. Definitely worth checking out if you are a guy who likes the idea of a fresh, woody fragrance that you can wear at all times, especially if you're in your 20s and especially at this price. But once again, you don't have to be in your 20s to get this. If you're a teenager, maybe ask for it for Christmas or your birthday. Essential Parfum Bois Imperial. My guys in your 30s, the fragrances I'll be suggesting are still prioritizing a freshness. Again, freshness seems to equal versatility, and that's what we're sticking to for this video. But we're getting a little bit bolder, a little bit less safe, with more standout elements, perhaps more enhanced woods and spices and mosses, more characteristically masculine elements. These are elements that comprise a more iconic profile that is simply going to be taken more seriously. So you got to dress and walk the part. Terre de Hermes Eau de Toilette is our designer choice. This is an iconic profile. There's few fragrances I could have picked that are more iconic than this that perfectly fit the bill. Now, that being said, not going to be for everyone. I'll be honest with you, when I first tried this stuff years ago, maybe 6, 7, almost 8 years ago, it wasn't my thing. I actually hated it and decided I would never come back to it, but I have since come back to it, and it's now one of my favorite designer fragrances, period. There's a reason why it's been around for almost 20 years at this point. It's award winning. They've come out with all these flankers. It's spawned an entire genre of fragrance, and it's not going anywhere. You gotta love vetiver. It's kind of a dirty, earthy, woody vetiver, a little bit dry, but still has a nice citrusy freshness to it with spice, and it has a lot of isoe super, which gives the fragrance this kind of soft, musky membrane. So while it is a little bit abrasive, it does have a softness to it that makes it super accessible in the air, and honestly adds to a little bit of sexiness, but in a clean, masculine way. This is more of a daytime fragrance in my opinion, but you can wear it anytime, anywhere. You just have to be prepared to smell pretty sophisticated. Terre de Hermes Eau de Toilette. And the niche pick for guys in your 30s, Ormonde Jayne, Ormonde Man. Another classic profile, has been around pretty much as long as Terre de Hermes, maybe even a little bit longer. There's a reason why it's still being sold today. It's timeless. It smells like it could have come out at any point in time. It is characterized by lots of cardamom, which is a great spicy element to have if you want to smell accessible. Cardamom just smells great to most people. It's a little bit sweet, it's spicy, and it's kind of cooling fresh. That coupled with some slightly bitter and nutty herbs and woods, I know that sounds weird, but that's just the vibe I get, makes this fragrance still smell quite masculine, smells refined in the air. You just smell put together, super versatile, but its own thing. It is quite unique. That is Ormonde Jayne, Ormonde Man. You can find this fragrance down in the description, along with everything we've talked about thus far and everything we will talk about moving forward. Guys in your 40s. Now this is beyond me. I am not yet in my 40s, but I've always felt a little bit more mature for my age, even going back into my 20s. So once again, this plays into the idea that it doesn't matter how old you are, whatever kind of energy you want to convey to the world, that's what you go for. So now we're getting into profiles that some might consider a little bit more objectively mature, but it is still subjective. Again, personalities here. Nonetheless, these are modern profiles. We're not going with super old profiles from generations ago. That's not necessary. Those are great too, and I think I did that in the last video, but not really doing that this time. We want these fragrances to convey a classiness and an elegant confidence. And our designer choice is going to be from Hermes. This is Voyage d'Hermes Parfum. Green, fresh woody fragrance that has a little bit of darkness to it. It's green and spicy. Honestly, the vibe that I get when I smell this, I imagine being in a dense rainforest under the shade of a tree. Think of the dark colors of the green leaves in the woods and the earth below you in the shade. That's the vibe that I get from this. It's still kind of cool and damp in terms of the air around you, but it is not necessarily overtly fresh. But It does have enough of a freshness to make it versatile, to make it appropriate for any occasion. It smells pretty professional, but it could also be something you wear going out either formally or a little bit more casually. Just a classy scent, guys. May not be everyone's cup of tea, so it might take a guy in his 40s or maybe even late 30s to really appreciate this. But if this sounds like the vibe you want to convey, check it out. Hermes Voyage d'Hermes Parfum. And our niche pick, also a timeless profile that evokes the feeling of fragrances that came out even 100 years ago, but this fragrance came out within the past few years. This is from Acqua de Parma. They call it Colonia Futura, and this is an Italian style citrus aromatic scent. Lots of herbs, lots of bright citruses like lemon and bergamot. It does smell a little bit like a sunny day, but there is this strong, masculine kind of mossy woodiness grounding the scent that makes it smell mature, a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit older, so to speak, but not old-fashioned, not dated. I think the citrusy brightness of the scent is what helps it from smelling stuffy. It makes it so you could wear it on a hot day out. You're still gonna smell very uplifting and approachable, but you could also wear it professionally, and it has a groundedness that makes it smell more refined to match that environment. Easily signature scent worthy if you love it. That is Acqua de Parma, Colonia Futura. All right, guys, in your 50s plus, that is. Obviously, we continue to live past this point. We're going for classic masculinity here. So what better scent profile to use than the Fougere? This is a timeless genre and scent profile that in my experience conveys cleanliness, professionalism, maturity, and respect.
You smell like a man.
Simply put, I think the minority of younger guys will be drawn to this type of fragrance because the majority of younger guys do not care for these types of traits just yet in terms of a classic man. So it'll be a few of you younger guys who really get this and are drawn to this. And the designer choice I've gone with is from Tom Ford. It's Fougere D'Argent. And this is a modern Fougere that does pay beautiful homage to the genre. It's relatively simple, but it is definitive. There is a sharp woodiness here that honestly might not be everyone's favorite thing. Almost like sniffing like wool or something up close, but it is still made quite fresh with lavender. So there's a clean soapy vibe. There's a creamy, slightly sweet vibe, but there's ultimately this spicy sexiness here that not every Fougere has. This is a Fougere that I think works perfectly in the evening as well as the day. It could be a more formal or slightly casual going out scent in the nighttime. Maybe not a fragrance I would spray on the hottest days. If you are going to be inside in a climate controlled environment, when it's hot, then you'll be just fine here. I'm not wearing this to the beach, but any other time, a Fougere works beautifully if you want to convey the classiness that it has. Tom Ford Fougere D'Argent. And finally, our niche pick, another Fougere, currently my scent of the day. Haven't worn this in quite a few months, and I'm so glad to be wearing it because I love this fragrance. And there was a time when I could not ever see myself wearing it because it smelled too mature. It smelled a little bit too stuffy for me. But now I can't get enough of this, and I'm grateful my wife loves it too. From Amouage, the under-discussed and underrated Bracken Man. Good Lord, this is a beautiful and iconic Fougere fragrance, and I think what makes it really stand out is the element that will push some people away. It's what pushed me away, and it is the cloves. The cloves in here are very dry, a little bit stuffy, quite spicy and warm. And if you don't like cloves, then at the very least, this is not a fragrance you want to smell up close. And that's the mistake I made when I first smelled it. But in wearing it, you get it in the air, you do get a cleanliness about it, you do get that slightly creamy soapiness that the Fougere often has, but it's way drier, way more woody in this case, and again, quite spicy. A very unique take on the Fougere. Definitely has a bit of a green quality, almost like the fern, which is what Fougere means. It's meant to depict the scent of the fern. You get that vibe here, but with so much depth that you would easily expect from Amouage. So Bracken Man, totally worth a sample. If this is the kind of vibe you want to convey to the world, check it out. Links down below. All right, well, that was super fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this little collection of vibes to consider depending on the type of energy you want to put out into the world. Once again, you can try everything down in the description below. And I want to know what you think. If you've tried these fragrances, let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about them. And if you haven't tried them, then you know what to do. Check out the links. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.